Hello, I'm Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report for Wednesday, June 26th. Whose fault is it anyway? Let's pick up where we left off last week, where I talked about some symbols, some Jewish symbols, such as the Star of David and the kippah, that are shunned from being displayed in public. The Star of David, because somehow it would be offensive to people, and it is a nationalist symbol, and the kippah because it could elicit violence from people around the wearer. And yet nobody tells any other cultural group to remove its symbols or mode of dress for any similar reason. Not only are most cultural groups and their attire and symbols tolerated in the West, they're often celebrated in the name of diversity. And then there's the mainstream media that when an anti-Semitic action does take place, they somehow blame it on a, quote, far-right supremacy, some sort of global initiative that is organized. But for this, there is actually no evidence. The left seems to be far more tolerant and even behind anti-Semitism and its actions around the world, especially on college campuses. There are no right-wing, far right-wing, or white supremacy groups that are endorsed or channeled by any college campuses in America. I'm not talking about conservatives, I'm talking about far right. And yet, groups that are organized for BDS and who take a week out of the college campus calendar to boycott Israel or call it an apartheid state and set up in kiosks and programs to rail against the state. Well, these groups are not only usually endorsed or given resources by the universities, they often have faculty members participating and leading it. And then, of course, there's Mayor de Blasio in New York. I explained a couple weeks ago that there's been a significant uptick in anti-Semitic activities in New York. And he went on again to say that this is mostly the fault of white supremacists. But when you look up recent attacks, just in Brooklyn alone, May 6th, man assaulted, cursed as a Jew in Brooklyn. May 9th, video footage shows an assault on a Jew in Brooklyn. May 12th, 2 identifiably Jewish men were attacked in separate locations. One of the teenagers who turned themselves in for those attacks was under investigation, and there has been zero evidence that he is connected or aligned with any kind of quote-unquote right-wing organization. There is no evidence of any of the attacks in Brooklyn being related to any organized or unorganized right-wing organization. The elephant in the room is, of course, that they are carried out by members of a variety of minority groups that have embedded racism into their ranks. Similarly, in Europe, the mantra is that it's the far white supremacists that attack Jewish people. Now, while that doesn't mean that nobody's being attacked by someone identifying as a far right or white supremacist, it is rather that the majority of the instances that are occurring are not relative to those folks, but rather the Islamic far right or the increasingly popular anti-Jewish rhetoric that is rising on the left and the progressive side of the political spectrum. This is not a secret even. Facebook has various groups connected to the radical left that openly mock the Holocaust and even deny it happened. Let's go back to Brooklyn for a moment. Brooklyn City College just last month had their anti-Israel rally on Jerusalem's Independence Day. And one of the officials that was there and gave a speech was elected Democrat City Council member Ralph Perfetto. He went on to say, and this is a quote, "I believe the rise of anti-Semitism in this country is because of what is happening there." He means Israel. Not because of Jewish people in this country, meaning America, but because of what is happening over there. And unfortunately, the Jewish people in this country are suffering for it. So what Ralph just did was not only excuse anti-Semitism, he blamed it on the Jews in Israel. And yeah, I'm sorry that their actions are affecting our Jews here, but they're the ones who are eliciting the hate, and it's their fault. So I'm just floored that this elected official on the left, he's a registered Democrat, came up with this and nobody picked up on it. So it's really just a shell game. Decades of a shell game that excuses intolerance and anti-Semitism as some sort of rewritten, revised, reiterated, and reconfirmation of a millennia-long hatred of Jews that seems to manifest its way in a Machiavellian and convenient mode for the day. Right now, it is to blame Israel for everything because now we have a concentrated nation that is identified as Jewish. But again, every time there's a railing against Israel, usually Jews around the world suffer for it. Moreover, Jews around the world suffer, and so does Israel. It is all cyclical, and they cannot be disconnected. Therefore, people who say they are just simply anti-Zionist and not anti-Semitic cannot make that claim in good conscience. I would like to end this week with one bit of good news, and that is that India on June 6th voted in support of Israel for the first time ever at the UN Economic and Social Council to deny status of observer to a Palestinian human rights organization named Shahed. Shahed has been actually linked to terrorist organizations, and US, France, Germany, Japan, UK, South Korea, Canada all actually voted in favor of Israel in this event. China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and some others in Asia voted for the Palestinian body. The fact that India broke from the Asian contingency and voted with the Europeans is something that is new and should be celebrated, and it means they are opening their eyes to the reality of these organizations that claim to support the quote-unquote Palestinian people and are seeking peace. It is becoming more and more evident that that is not actually what they desire. Indeed, it's to eradicate Israel. The UN is still a problematic organization, but we'll talk about that another day. Shavua Tov, and have a great week.